Hi guys, it's Charla from That Girl Cooks Healthy. What's up? Welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna show you how to make this Jamaican seasoned rice using cauliflower rice. So it's a low carb modern day recipe, and this is my way of making it. It's extremely delicious and very easy to make, and I cannot wait to show you guys how to make it. So I'm going to show you the ingredients that you need for this recipe. First of all, I'm going to put a disclaimer out because not everybody watches the entire video. So I'm going to keep saying this a few times throughout the video that this is a modern day, I emphasize it is a modern day Jamaican seasoned rice recipe. It's not traditional and it is low carb. I am not using any type of rice whatsoever. I'm using cauliflower rice, which is technically cauliflower that is grounded down, okay? Because I do not want negative comments or any type of disparity where people are saying it don't look good, we make you put this in it, we don't make it so so please don't bother with the comments. Just allow them, leave them alone, don't bother unless you are open-minded person and you've been following my blog as well as my vlog. Then you will know the type of recipes that I make, and for a specific type of person, if it is not you, then you can follow somebody else's recipe, okay? So anyway, now that I've got that out the way, you're going to need some cauliflower. I have like a medium-sized cauliflower. You need about that type of size. You don't really want to go too large because you're going to have too much cauliflower left. Have onions. I have some tomato paste as well as chopped tomato, some bell peppers. Any color will do. I have yellow and red. I have some seasoning for the cauliflower rice. So I have parsley, garlic granules, onion granules. You can use powdered if you want to. All-purpose seasonings and some pink salt. I have ackee. This is canned ackee because I cannot get fresh ackee where I'm at, which is very unfortunate because if you've tasted fresh ackee, it's a million times better than canned, and it also holds its shape as well. So I have the canned ackee, what was in brine. So I thoroughly washed it off and carefully just put it in a colander when I washed it off to keep most of the shape of it. I have spinach. Again, I would normally use callaloo, but it's hard to get callaloo sometimes and I don't always have a callaloo hookup, so I had to use spinach. If you have callaloo, use callaloo instead because that's more authentically Caribbean. I also have saltfish. You guys know that I do my DIY saltfish, and I will put a link to that so you guys who are not familiar with it, you can watch that video of how I do my own saltfish. If you're using the store-bought, then you'll have to do the traditional of soaking, boiling and deboning the saltfish. I have thyme, some scotch bonnet, paprika. That's more of a personal thing that I like to add to mine. I have okra and I have some black pepper. So the first thing I'm going to do is to remove the stem of the cauliflower. I've already removed the leaves. If you have the leaves to remove, then you need to remove the leaves as well as the stem, and I've already washed the cauliflower as well. So what I'm doing now is just cutting it into small florets. You just want them to be as a small size because you're going to be putting it in your food processor, so you don't want them to be too large. If you do have a lot of florets, then you'll need to just do it in batches. So just chop all of that off and discard the stem area. So the next thing we need to do is to add those florets to our food processor. I am using a food processor with an S blade. You can see the S blade in the base right there. You also need to keep in mind, depending on the size of the cauliflower, as I said, you want to use like a medium size, that you might need to do it in batches, but I only needed to do one single batch. I got all of the cauliflower in there and I didn't need to do multiple batches, so it will vary. So don't worry about that if you do have to do a few batches. So I've put the food processor on, and I'm just going to just break down the cauliflower into the finest consistency that you can get. You know, it's not rice, but at the same time it's a type of pseudo rice, so it should come out as a pretty much a small texture, and you just want to keep an eye when you're blending it as well, that you get that small texture. You don't want it to be too chunky, but it really needs to be more of what resembles a rice type of texture, I guess. So I've stopped the food processor, and I'm going to just remove the lid to show you guys what your cauliflower rice should look like. And you just want to just use a spatula or a spoon to determine the consistency, and it should be more on the broken down fine consistency side. So now we're going to start the process of cooking the cauliflower rice. The first thing I'm going to do is to add some olive oil to my frying pan and heat that through. And once it's heated through, I'm then going to add the okra. I know a lot of people do not like eating okra. I used to be like that when I was younger, but now I actually embrace it, and I like it in a lot of recipes because I know how to prepare the okra that myself and my family, they end up liking it too, so not just myself. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to lightly fry the okra, and that's going to get rid of that sliminess. That is the thing that most people do not like. They don't like the slimy texture of okra. So you want to cook the okra till you start to see that the green is going to have some brown parts on it, and it's almost lightly fried. That's the texture. And you'll also notice as well that most of the slime will be eliminated through the oil, through the frying process. So you really want to keep cooking until that time, and it's going to take a few minutes till we get to that point. And that is the way that you fall in love with okra. Just keep frying it lightly to eliminate the sliminess, and you will enjoy it. You really will like it, trust me. So the next thing that we need to do is to add the cauliflower rice to our pan. So we just carefully add that to our pan, and once we add that, then we're going to follow it by adding our spinach, or like I said, if you are fortunate enough to have access to callaloo, even better, you add it next. Now when you add the spinach, or should I say the cauliflower, sorry, the callaloo, I apologize, the callaloo, whichever one you're using, you need to keep stirring until it wilts. It will start to wilt, and once it wilts, that's pretty much the stage that you need to get it at first it's going to seem like a large volume, but you need to continue to stir. It's going to take a few minutes to get to that point where the vegetable is pretty much wilted and it's combined with the cauliflower rice. So now that it's wilted, I'm just going to add my seasoning. So that's the parsley, the garlic granules, onion granules, all-purpose seasoning, and pink salt. And I'm just going to continue to fold that in until all of the seasoning is combined with the cauliflower rice. So I've removed the cauliflower rice from my frying pan, so I'm starting over with a clean pan. So I've just added some olive oil to my pan, and I'm just going to add some onions and scallion to my pan, and then I'm just going to saute those for a few minutes until they're soft and translucent. So now that the onions are soft, I'm going to add the bell peppers, and I'm just going to continue to cook the bell peppers, followed by adding the chopped tomato. You don't want to add the tomato paste just yet. You just want to add the chopped tomato first of all, and then we'll follow up with the rest of the ingredients. So now I'm just going to put the lid on my frying pan just to allow the bell peppers to steam for a few minutes. So after a few minutes now, I'm just going to remove the lid of the frying pan so you guys can see that the bell peppers are nice and soft. I don't like my bell peppers crunchy in this particular recipe, so I always like to just steam them for a few minutes to make sure they're really soft. So now I'm going to add my tomato paste followed by my saltfish. You're going to notice that when I add the saltfish that the recipe is going to take, actually when I add the cauliflower rice as well as the saltfish, you're going to notice now that the recipe is going to take on more of a slightly red hue to it, so it's not going to stay a whitish color, just to let you guys know. So don't be alarmed if the color changes, that's because of the tomato paste, and that gives it more flavor anyway. So I personally recommend to stick with the tomato paste. So I'm adding my saltfish. As I said before, I do my own saltfish. I no longer use store-bought. I haven't done it for years now, and my family are also the same. I'll put the link to that so you guys can see how I do my saltfish, or you can use the store-bought if you want to. It's really up to you. So it does look slightly different, you'll notice, but that the appearance, it really does depending on what type of fish I use for the saltfish. I do try to use cod, but it's overfished, so it's not always easy to get. So I'm just going to continue now to fold in the saltfish with the rest of the ingredients. So now I'm just going to add my paprika, and then I'm just going to add my thyme and scotch bonnet. In terms of the thyme, I'm using thyme, fresh thyme with the stem, but I also like to add some loose thyme as well, so it distributes as well. So I'm just, once I add those ingredients, I'm just going to continue to stir it in. So now I'm just going to add the cauliflower rice to the frying pan and then carefully fold it in. As I said, you're going to notice now that the whitish color from the cauliflower rice that you can see is going to take on more of a slightly red undertone to it. So do not be alarmed. It is pretty much normal. And that's pretty much just how the recipe turns out. It's not going to be extremely bright, but you're going to have a red undertone to the recipe, just to let you guys know. So I'm just going to continue to just fold that in for a few minutes, and then I'm going to move on to showing you how to add the ackee. So now I'm finally going to add the ackee. Because I'm using canned ackee and it is more vulnerable and fragile, I'm just adding it carefully because I like to try and keep it whole. That's just something that I like to do with most of my recipes when I'm making an ackee recipe. And what I'm doing is I'm just adding it to the top of the cauliflower rice, and then I'm going to put the lid on and just allow it to heat through for about up to 10 minutes. If you're using fresh ackee, then you'll need to make sure that you thoroughly cook it through. And I'm just going to leave it there and show you guys how to fold it in. So I'm just going to remove the lid from the frying pan and show you guys what it looks like. And once I've removed the lid from the frying pan, I'm going to grab a spoon and just carefully fold it in as best as I can. If you're not concerned about keeping the ackee whole, then you can just go right in and just completely stir it in. But I just like to just fold it a few times, just a couple of times, just to make sure that the ackee is incorporated to keep it whole. So the last thing that I'm going to do is to just sprinkle on the black pepper. You might want to give the dish a taste test to make sure that it has enough pink salt in there or other seasoning, but it was fine for myself. So this is pretty much how you make it. I tried to make it look as appetizing because it really is a delicious low carb, great if you're from the Caribbean and want to lose weight. This is the recipe that you need to make. I promise you that you will lose weight on it, and you'll also be eating something that is flavorsome. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and even share, even better. And I will see you on the other side.